Welcome back to Optometry Unleashed, the podcast where we explore the strategies and frameworks to unleash your success in eye care. I'm your host, Dr. Trevor Miranda, and today we're sitting down with a real heavy hitter in the industry, someone who's shaping the business of vision care and championing its impact in Canada. Simon Robert is the Senior Director of Corporate Affairs and Strategic Partnerships at EssilorLuxottica Canada. An impressive title, with an even more impressive impact. Simon is a driving force at the helm of a bold vision care strategy, advancing EssilorLuxottica's mission to eliminate uncorrected poor vision within a generation. I'm absolutely thrilled he's here today. Simon, welcome to Optometry Unleashed.
Thank you, Trevor.
It's so great to have you. You know, Simon, you've had a fascinating career already, and you're still a young man.
Youngish.
You know, you were at the intersection of corporate affairs, strategy, and vision care. But before all of that, you were a college student studying psychosociology, which it isn't the typical path into corporate strategy and into corporate life. You know, can you tell us a little bit about how you came into where you are now?
Yeah. So people will hear that I'm a French Quebecer in there. And so I studied in college at Cégep. I actually studied engineering technologies first. And then I went to study psychosociology. And it's really behavioral science applied to small groups and humans around us. In that program, I followed a course on it was biology, ecosystems, and all of that. And the study showed that, you know, to change behaviors to save population, it was health related. It was linked to mercury over there. And I'm like, oh my God, the human mind can bend, and that's how we change the world. So I got really deep into those aspects of science. And then the environment was interesting. And I learned something called sustainable development, which is environment, social, and economic performance built into one. And I'm like, okay, that's the future. And back then it didn't exist. So I did my postgraduate diplomas in environmental management with a lot of courses in sustainable development. And I started in the nonprofit sector, did a lot of cool projects to bring quality nutrition to low income communities. But then I was always fighting for resources. And at that point, big corporations started to open positions as a sustainable development advisors. And I'm like, oh, they have resource. They can have an impact. So I joined one to quickly figure out that you need to be into the strategy for it to have an impact. So I read almost every book I could find on strategy, Michael Porter and all of that. And that's how I got into it.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. You know, a career in corporate social responsibility, or CSR. We would call that central serous retinopathy in the eye care field.
Or customer service representative as well. Right. The CSR thing is kind of weird. Yeah.
That's so true. So this trying to build a better world and better things to help people in the world. I think that's really fascinating. So EssilorLuxottica is lucky to have someone like you that has that social responsibility side. Can you tell us how, if you had a challenge inside your work to sort of make sure everybody's aware of all the aspects that go into thinking and planning a new project?
It goes into how I joined Essilor back then, now EssilorLuxottica, because I had a 20th story corner office downtown Montreal. I was in charge of a team of a lot of people with millions of dollars in partnership I was managing. But then I got this call from someone that said, you know, Essilor could be a good partner and a good organization for your next step. And I'm like, okay, let me, I didn't know the organization. And that surprised me because I have a pretty extensive network in the business world. And so I did my due diligence. And I came back to them to say, listen, I've read that you want to eradicate poor vision in the world in a generation. I'm guessing that this position is for Canada and to figure that out. And they're like, yeah, that's it. And there was a big component of our foundation linked to it. And I said, you know, a foundation won't do it by itself, right? And they're like, okay. I said, but I also learned of all the assets and subsidiaries within the organization. So if you're willing to use every asset at your disposal to reach that ambition and you don't know how to do it, I said, I want to crack that code. And so it's a funny story between me and the VP of HR, because after I said that, after a month of radio silence from them, I'm like, okay, that's not what they wanted. I don't know. So I texted her and said, Isabelle, I don't know if maybe I messed up, or can you tell me why? She's like, no, Simon, we're trying to book you a meeting with a guy in Singapore. He's our chief mission officer for the global corporation, and he wants to meet you. And so Giant Bouvaragan back then was that guy, and we had the discussion, and he's like, Simon, we're not globally structured this way, but Canada has always been this special project of ours where, innovation stems a lot from that region. So he's like, I'd like you to try. So that's how the whole story started with Essilor back then, and now EssilorLuxottica.
Yeah, and it's a great mandate, to try to bring vision to everybody, and when you say everybody, that's just everybody from babies to seniors that may be shut in and not have access to eye care, to remote areas of even Canada, that don't have access to eye care. I've been on several trips in developing countries, missions, if you will, to bring eye care to people who've never had the opportunity to see and have been highly myopic, have never seen, beyond, their hand in front of them. And it's heartwarming. It's humbling to be able to help somebody see for the first time.
I'm doing it with a lot of humility, because when I joined, the first thing you do in corporate social responsibility is you map the stakeholders, right? Who is around this and who can make this possible? And the only conclusion that you can come up to is that everyone needs to sit on the chair of an optometrist in Canada. There's no other way. And then once you say that, there are limits, right? There's only so much optometry can do in Canada. So what do you need? Then you need additional tools and technology to be able to do that. And although statistically there are enough optometrists in Canada for the population, in reality, there are optometry deserts out there with no service. So yes, big centers are overrepresented and they can offer that. The other element is the renewal rate of glasses in Canada is 2.7 years. In the US, it's 2 years. Every 2 years, people change their glasses. If we decided to do a holistic approach and reduce the 2.7 to 2 years, it's 35% growth for the whole market.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So doing good pays as well, right?
That's right. I mean, I don't think those have to be mutually exclusive. And by the way, I think it's really important to all of my colleagues that are listening here is, sometimes they think, oh, there's just a little bit of change in their vision. I'm really not going to show them new technology. I'm just going to let them live for another 2 years with maybe, suboptimal vision. And I was talking to one of our previous podcasts, Terrence, my brother, audiologist, and he was saying that 10% improvement, in his vision, that we updated his prescription and gave him prism in his glasses, really helped him see and feel that 10% improvement was so much worth it to him because he's very active with his eyes. So it's just an important reminder, it can really make an impact your vision.
And I mean, I did not wear glasses before I joined Essilor. Before I joined, I did go see the optometrist and get my eyes checked. And I'm like my daughter, I'm a hyperope with astigmatism. Not a strong prescription, but I used to have headaches every Thursday and Friday because I worked a lot, and those are completely gone. And I'm functional without glasses, but you're not going to see me without them. It's not because of the brand or the element of it. It's because, my God, this is super HD and I'm that best version of myself with them, and I can hustle longer. So it's an easy hack that you can bring to your patients. And it does improve their lives.
We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. I'm thrilled to share an exciting new resource for professionals in the eye health industry, eyecare Collective. eyecare Collective is redefining collaboration and growth in our industry. Whether you're a clinic owner, optician, or an eye care professional, this platform empowers you with the tools you need to streamline your operations and elevate your success. As a member, you'll enjoy the benefits of consolidated billing, access to competitive pre-negotiated discounts, and programs tailored to support the unique needs of your practice. If you're ready to amplify your impact in the world of eye care, visit www.eyecarecollective.ca and find out how Eye Care Collective can support your journey to success. You probably do a good job of capturing contact lens sales after seeing a patient. But what happens when they use up their initial supply? Yes, your patients love you, but at refill time, they're probably just taking the path of least resistance to restock their lenses, going online or to the big box stores. These missed opportunities add up to tens of thousands of dollars leaking out of your business. That's where Auto comes in. Auto allows you to be that path of least resistance. Auto is the easiest way for eye care practices to stay engaged with patients and offer them a frictionless way to order their contact lenses and dry eye products from you, rather than from your competitors. Timely refill reminders and one-click reorders offer patients an unbeatable purchasing experience. And on the back end, Auto is integrated directly with your suppliers to allow for uber-efficient order management and fulfillment, saving valuable staff time. Over 600 clinics across Canada and the US are already using Auto to reclaim lost sales and simplify their workflow. Want to learn more? Check out their website at autooptics.io. That's OTTO optics.io. Sell more, do less with Auto. Yeah, 100%. And it's a magical moment, when a youngster, a kindergarten student comes in and you can put glasses on for the first time. Or my last guest, Dr. Ritesh Patel, was telling us he was so inspired by that first interaction of when he was a high myope as a child that he idolized his optometrist and wanted to become an optometrist. So it can be very, very impactful, as you know, to help a child see.
Absolutely.
Game changing, in fact, for that. So just want to talk a little bit about EssilorLuxottica's role in myopia. A lot of our listeners may not know that myopia is a worldwide epidemic in some Asian countries, especially, when 90% plus of people are myopic. And what myopic means is they can't see far away. They to varying degrees can see just within a hand's reach and can't, go to school without correction to be able to see what's happening farther out with the on the smart board or chalkboard or whatever you're used to learn there. So what are your thoughts about Essilor making myopia control a key priority? And can you just comment on that?
Well, you've heard the stat, like everyone in their presentation deck, 50% of the population will be myopic by 2050, right? So that is a major challenge in eye care. And to understand why we went into it is, I said the value of our market cap. EssilorLuxottica invests, I can't say only nowadays because hearing is a component that we're getting into, but in vision care, right? That is our market. We're not a massive venture cap that can switch from one market to another based on the trend. We invest in vision. And that is one of the foremost challenge that we need to tackle. And a lot of the high myopia is preventable with the right modalities. So, and I mean, we're lucky to have developed this amazing product, the Stellest lens, or the HALT technology, highly spherical lenslet technology. And I think for children nowadays, I mean, to prevent them from having those high prescriptions, and it's becoming more and more, I'm sure you're seeing it in the clinic as well. Kids coming in with those -4, -5 already, and they're young, and it's progressing. So I think there's a lot to do, and we started doing that even before we launched Stellest. Not a lot of people know that we created this advisory board with a bunch of experts, an ophthalmologist in there, the 2 universities, and practitioners all over the country to understand the situation and to really bring the right solution the right way on the market. One of the elements we've seen as well is that we're still under-penetrated. A lot of kids are leaving the office without anything, and they're progressing, right? And Debbie Jones had this amazing study in the GTA area where she showed that she did a retrospective studies of pediatric patients inside the office to see how many were managed in terms of myopia. And the percentage is fairly low. We're celebrating that it's increasing, but it still means a lot of kids are leaving the office without any treatment. And the study itself, of course, they used pediatric offices that were predisposed to doing myopia management. So if you go into other communities, which might not be as pro treatment and service like that, it's going to be even lower. So that's a big challenge. Is it a business opportunity? Absolutely. But it's also helping those kids evolve. It is a treatment more than just a pure correction. And I think that justifies the price that everyone's offering to the patients.
I think it's incumbent on all of us as optometrists and optometric professionals, eye care professionals, to offer the solution to the patient. So, is that a duty of care? I think yes. We should offer the opportunity. Now it's up to the patient and the parents to decide affordability. But I think we need to make them aware. We have to educate them on that opportunity and the risks of being a high myope. There's some disease risks as you get older in life from being highly myopic. And, just in general, managing that is a healthier solution for longevity. As you were saying, biohacking, it's better to be less myopic than highly myopic. So what do you think? What do you think is holding up? If you could just whisper some advice to every single optometrist, between you and I at Optometry Unleashed here, what would you say to them? Like, wake up, show everybody that there's a myopic management lens like Stellest in the marketplace that can help your patients and help this child. What would you say?
That it's an easy fix. You need to correct them anyway. So the spectacle lenses and the Stellest lens is the perfect solution to do something, and it's easier. You don't need to, go to Ortho-K, do atropine, other soft contact lenses, all of those solutions, do something. I feel like the spectacle lens is the easier solution without requiring, you don't need the biometer. It's ideal if you measure it axial length, but you don't need to at least do something. So for me, that's one. But on that note, last year I spoke at the Myopia Summit. And we sponsored it, so they gave us our 5 minutes of glory, as they call them, and we can say that we're proud to be happy to sponsor. And I said, I don't want to do that because we have this unique view of the whole eye care ecosystem, right? As you say, we're serving pretty much everyone in the market. And so I did an analysis of why don't we have more offices stepping up and doing myopia management? And it's a systemic reason behind that, right? Most of the training and awareness we targeted towards optometry. You need to do it. So the optometrist technically is ready. They can do it, right? But then if you look at the whole patient pathway and how it unfolds inside the office, the parent is going to have a surprise once the optometrist mentions it, right? No one else were they aware of this. So what we suggested was to integrate myopia management awareness throughout the whole patient pathway so that even your office team should know. If they're calling to confirm an appointment with that mother and they kind of know, because you know your patients, right? They kind of know, they said, hey, by the way, myopia management is now a thing. Do you mind if I send you this email or element and you integrate it? So, and imagine if they come in the office and the flyers on the table is about that condition. So every touch point that you have with patients, they know. So when you as a doctor kind of stop and say, you know what, to the parent, they'll say, he needs myopia management, right? And they already inquire and they kind of know the costs and they know it's a treatment, but they're willing to invest in it. And then the follow-up elements becomes all natural. And that whole flow, not a lot of people have built. And I think that's why we supported, I recommend in building that patient pathway workshop that they're delivering to their members right now. And it's all about behavioral triggers to say, how can you nudge your staff and parents to step into the myopia management journey?
It's fascinating. It's great. I think that's bang on because we need to educate in a specific customized way. We need to pre-educate, prepare that patient, that family for their their in-person visit so that they can have some background? Because, sometimes you can just throw it all over them and it's just too much to digest. And then they just walk out of your office and don't get any solution from you, which is, the worst case scenario in a lot of ways. So it is challenging to customize these solutions, but I think investing in training your staff and your team and educating your team first to be able to educate the public at large.
And I would add, Trevor, education is one component, but we are beasts of habits. So trick your habits into doing the right thing. So in the office, it's not just explaining to them how they do it, is if you already have a script when they're booking, and usually they don't write it down, they have it in their head, but they always say the same thing. So work with your team to write down their script that they usually take and to add the myopia management component to it. At first, they'll read it. It won't feel natural. But after a while, it's going to become that habit automatic. So they'll mention it again. And that for them, it's empowering, right? They are part of changing that kid's life. And they hold one of the keys to the door to the parents to say yes to those treatments. So it's that workshop. And it's really, once I've said it, the structure is fairly simple. You just look at your touch points and you integrate those elements. For your receptionists, you say, do you want to be part of that change? Do you want to have a purpose higher than just a booking? You need to help us to drive that message to the parents to make sure that the kids are leave here and they have the right solution.
Yeah, totally. It's an evolution, but I think it's out there, and it's great to see EssilorLuxottica helping, independents with that communication. I wanted to talk a little bit about your med tech divisions. I know that's rolls into you to some degree, and what's coming down the pipe in med tech with EssilorLuxottica?
It's always a challenge with the size of our group, because if people are registered to the corporate newsletters and you're a shareholder and you follow those elements. For example, you'll know that we globally purchased Heidelberg, so those high-end OCTs and fundus cameras. But in Canada, it's distributed by Innova, which is a competitor from Axis Medical, which is a subsidiary of ours. So our life is not simple. What's true in globally, we need to make it work in Canada. And I think one of the message I can send is that help us help you in that journey to make a difference. So because we are your lobbyists inside the global corporation to bring all of those cool solutions to the market. And, we've talked about Nuance, which was the hearing spectacles, that their hearing glasses that was launched in the US, not yet launched in Canada. We're working on it. It's one of those elements where we can bring additional value to the market. But we need the help of the professionals, because if we say that Canada is this fertile ground to bring those innovations and we can tackle it, then the group's going to listen and invest. If we're only managing issues and problems because of this and that, and people don't like how big we are and all of that, then we don't have the group's attention. So that's the other side of the coin that no one sees, is that if we're only managing perception issues, we're not creating value. And I think that's where we want to go, and create that additional value. From a medtech perspective, the hearing space is one. It's really amplifying, so it's not going into pure audiology at this point. It's going to be a frame with amplifying capabilities. So that's a cool one. The other element, and Heidelberg is a component of it, is the AI aspect of it. So the way it's presented globally is really early diagnostic of different pathologies as well. And you know that well, right? Everything that can be diagnosed through a retina. It's fascinating. And I did some work to see how that would entail in the Canadian ecosystem. And what's amazing is that those early diagnostics are worth a lot from an optometry perspective, because if you can early diagnose a diabetic person through the fundus image, imagine what that could mean in servings for the insurance industry. Right?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, and I'm a big proponent, as you are, you're talking about biohacking, but when interceding in disease progression early upstream. So early detection and mitigation strategies before it becomes, an overt concern. You lose vision, you lose function. Can we, fortify the structures of the retina and the cells to prevent these later onset, pathologies and diseases? I was interesting to you, maybe, Simone, is I was talking to a PhD student from Berkeley, California. He's working on analyzing the fundus in relation to Alzheimer's disease, and he's developed, more AI capabilities with that. And so it's really fascinating. I think the biggest barrier to these technologies will be the mindset of the OD, of the optometrist. Are we willing to kind of go a little bit different and go into an area to screen on a health and wellness basis that maybe, cognitive health like Alzheimer's or some other piece that we didn't realize? Maybe it's hearing health. Maybe it's some other piece that we weren't as attuned to. As you know, in our previous podcast with Terrence, there's a link between loss of hearing and dementia. So, how does optometry play a role in that holistic approach to healthcare?
You're right. I think the behavioral aspect is if the AI finds something, what do I do with it? And I think that's still that we need to build that approach of what you do. And then colleges need to understand what this means for the profession itself and to protect the public. That's their goal, right? So that is the challenge that we need to tackle. But I think where the power of optometry is, what you need to build, and you know that, but to build an AI algorithm is you need ground truths. So you need pictures and you need the diagnostic of some sort made by real humans, right? And what AI does, it basically, if you have enough of those, you say to the AI, learn from the image what that is, and find the patterns that repeat themselves with a bunch and thousands of images. And that creates the algorithm, which is then a software that can look at the image and identify the pattern and tell you what it might or might not be and the level of importance that it has. And so who has all of these images, right? Yes, ophthalmology has some, right? And usually in big US universities, they have tons of images that are banked and accessible, but optometry has those, right?
Yeah, and I think I see the future as we're getting the images that we take for our patients being run through AI and sort of a physician assistant tentative diagnosis report sent to the eye care doctor that will allow better education, better analysis, and better disease prevention as you go forward.
And you saw the change in the market with the coming of OCTs, right? You before and after, and people were concerned probably.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, there's a natural tendency, and this is something I think we all have to overcome, is managing change. I'm actually going to do a lecture on managing change and transforming, your practice in discussing how you manage change, because it's a mindset, as you know. And if you don't embrace that change in an exciting way, then change happens to you. You don't make change happen. So I think that's a key piece is, are you getting changed or are you changing? That's the question.
I think it's Churchill that said, you better grab change by the hand before it grabs you by the throat. Right?
So true. It's so true. Exactly. So you better just change your mind, I guess, your mindset, and, embrace these changes that are coming and try to figure out and partner with companies like EssilorLuxottica as how we can manage this really great technology in a responsible way, in a way that helps us with patient care and better outcomes.
And I'm seeing a lot of, just to close that loop on medtech, there's so much solution inside the exam room. The wearable components, we're talking about Ray-Ban Meta and everything you can bring even for blind people as well. And then in the lens itself, everything that's happening as a change, like the Varilux XR component that has AI to optimize, the near binocular, near and far vision components of it. So that's a massive improvement. That capabilities like AI and the data that we had stored before, we were able to bring that to the market as well. So that's the whole medtech approach. And the brand component that people know of Luxottica is that we're geeking out, you and I, on the multiple topic. A lot of people don't care about the technical aspect, but they'll wear a Prada frame like no problem, right? So if the brand brings the patient inside your chair, for me, that's just as good, right? As long as they get that comprehensive care that you can bring to them, that's a goal.
Yeah, and I think the goal too is, these lenses are invisible, right? And there's a different. I'm wearing XR right now. It's a big difference in technology between this and another type of, basic progressive lens. So I think sometimes the marketplace doesn't understand that, and sometimes the teams of, in offices aren't equipped to really properly explain those differentials. So that's a challenge too.
We tried to provide that storytelling capabilities to offices. So we have field trainers going out there. One of the key component for me is, and we've discussed commoditization of eyewear, and that is a challenge. How do you fight that? One of the key element is customization and bringing the right tools to your patients to say, you can't, we're going to take every measurement possible to optimize your vision. And with the higher end patients, like even the Varilux XR, you can get the eye code and use the eye roller 2 to go even deeper into the personalization. So with that tool, it optimizes your near vision as well. And you need to follow a dot on the screen. And then it adds to the algorithm to personalize the lens for you. So it even knows if you have a stronger eye, because you're going to be tilting the iPad and having one eye and then tilting it from one and the position of your head. It does all of that. So you can't buy that online, right? You need to go see a professional inside an office to get that level of personalization, and people see the benefit.
Yeah. And I think, enhancing a normal, let's say, in quote unquote, normal, that would have glasses, but it gets these other benefits, gets hearing, enhancements, gets vision enhancements, gets AI enhancement with Meta Ray-Ban. Like you said, you can look in the fridge and say, what can I make today? And it'll take a picture and analyze, give you a recipe. It's pretty incredible. Want to just pivot a little bit to, navigating power dynamics, with leadership teams, and externally. What's your approach to gaining buy-in? We've talked a little bit about this challenge, but how do you personally get collaboration? You're dealing with so many stakeholders just within your own company. How do you get people to think like you, Simon?
I don't. That would be a mess.
Everybody be intermittent fasting. There'd be no coffee break.
Yeah, that's it. One of the element I try to do is principal negotiation, right? You have other models like Simon Sinek's start with why element. It all comes down to what can we agree on, right? We can look at our differences all week long and not come up with something smart to say, but can we agree on something? And you'll realize that everyone wants to do good, but they're constrained, right? They might not have aligned objectives in different sequence. But first is, if you meet people like that, is what is your objective? Can you clarify your role? And empathy and understanding their perspective, that's how you find that solution, right? Understanding the other party, just like you do with patients, right? Understanding their lifestyle and what they want and their goals. You can make that super specific suggestion that will make the sale. And improve their lives down the road. But it's those elements of empathy and understanding where they are. And yes, it becomes complex when you have like 7 people around the table with different objectives and all of that. So your own computational power comes into play to say, can I stress those elements? And then it's almost like sometimes medicine, right? It's trial and error to say, what if we did that way, right? Would that work? And it's with a lot of humility One of the way I get out of it is appearing to have that big ego, but not really caring about it. I just want to find that solution, right? What people think of that. And if I don't come up with the solution, it's even better. That means I would have learned something, and that is precious. So it's all of those mingling element, but it's really understanding the other person. That's the key to success.
Yeah, it's difficult, for me sometimes to slow down enough to understand, because sometimes that status quo, I'm constantly challenging the status quo. I'm like, hey, we could do things differently. We could have a chairside scribe. We could get rid of the front desk. We could do amazing different things to re-envision our patient flow. We could use AI. People are like, whoa, settle down, Trev. I mean, let's just do things. What's wrong with the way it's going now? So how do you deal with that sort of, how do you deal with people like me that want to move forward, but a lot of people are happy, quote unquote, happy with the way things are?
You do need to pick your battles, right? Not everything that we bring is going to make a change. So it's change management. 101 is you need to take the person where they are and make that slow change. So if I'm into structuring some sort of project, you need to start where they are, because your moonshot vision is scary. It's not they don't want to do the project, is they don't know how. And they don't see the steps to get there. So sometimes it's holding back on your moonshot goal to say we're going to change the world and bring AI and blah, blah, blah. And to say, hey, can we do this instead? And the next step is that. And what's really hard for passionate people like you and I is holding back on, once you know the hook is in, you want to explain the whole thing because you think it's freaking brilliant, but it's scary. So we have to hold back on those elements and go a step-by-step approach. And that, you said it, it's change management.
Yeah, it's great advice, Simon. Thanks for that. I really will take that to heart. I think that's great. That, before you go to the moon, you have to, get in your car, right? Go drive somewhere to the launch pad. So it's going to take some time. So step by step. I like it. Given your experience in physical training and martial arts, specifically Aikido, what's your take, running corporate affairs at EssilorLuxottica? Is it more like a jiu-jitsu match, a marathon, or a chess match?
Oh, that's a good one. I often take the analogy of chess playing, because I do play with my daughter's 10 and she's already getting there and getting better at it. Because I like the fact that you can position different pieces or projects or visions on the board, but sometimes you just have to leave a section alone because it's not ready to deploy and there's no action over there. So I often do those analysis, and inside the organization, that's a diversified portfolio of projects and ambitions. Some will move, others will go back, and then you can. So I like the analogy of the chess. I'm not a runner, so I won't use that analogy. And the other one, Aikido. Morie Ueshiba was the founder of Aikido, and I like that. It looks fake when you look at that, because you're saying like, oh, the guy threw himself backwards. But what you need to understand is that the way the arm was twisted, it was so painful that if the guy didn't try to do a backflip, it would have broken the arm. So you kind of need to try to learn to do those. And it happened to me once where I landed fully on my back, breath out of there. And that's the science and the philosophy, I would say, behind that more than the science, is that you need to create a void so that your opponent is sucked into it. And that's how you gain the upper hand and use their strength against them to do that. And I think ego can be a void in that instance. So if you create those elements and you create a project and an image that sucks their ego in and it fits, right? It's finding the right pattern so that everything clicks together, then you'll win, but along with your opponent, which becomes a partner down the road.
It's not about the organization, you've said before. It's about the impact you can generate, right? inside your organization. And I think when I think back of my organization, our organization at Couch and Eye Care, I think there's a potential for every single individual to impact that organization. So I think you speak about being authentic in collaborations and negotiations. Can you just speak a little bit to that piece of how you create that authenticity?
Um, One of my core value is respect, right? And the respectful element in listening to other will create that preferred relationship and authenticity. We do need to understand that, and I don't know your staff, or some of them, some will want to just do their job and go back home, and their core identity is not linked to their work. It's linked to something at home, something, their family, their kids, whatever. And you need to respect that. But as a leader, you do need to manage their performance. So for you, it's to say, how can I use that spin and that trick to get them to want to evolve and to want to do more? And it's usually by understanding where they are, showing them the potential improvement on their life, their salary, their conditions of the change you want to bring. So it's that Aikido move to say, let's get them inside that situation where they win. And they're even prouder of their accomplishment, and that will build on their core identity, which might be how they teach their job and what they do to their family, right? It's not simple. It's not simple. It's not something that's taught at optometry school either. We have discussions with the schools, and I'm on the one of the fundraising board for the School of Montreal, and so we had tons of discussions around the training. One of the group in Quebec, Opto Réseau, started the summer business school for optometry students. I think that was very smart of them, and they start to talk about that. But it's not the core aspect of the training and the curriculum for optometry. But I think more and more there's a need. But organizations like the buying groups, like the head of accounts and all key accounts and all of that, they can provide some of that, or partner like us, where we could provide support on some of those questions.
No, I think it's important for every young OD that's graduating or student. Like my daughter's, heading to fourth year now at NECO in Boston in optometry school. Used to have mentors to find those ODs that are successful and make sure you ask questions about that and being able to, help guide you in your journey. So I know there's a fine line between, meaningful action and virtue signaling, when you show support for a cause because it's good optics, which often happens with social media and public relations. And I know that is always a challenge inside a big company like EssilorLuxottica. So how do you think companies and businesses and owners should do to ensure their social impact efforts don't just become another PR play?
Yeah. Well, it goes down to the why of the owner, right? Why are you doing it? The component of, are you doing it for profit or are you doing it to help your community? I think it's kind of a false question, right? You feel like you should be doing it, so you do it. Then make it profitable to do good. It's not an either or question behind that, because I think we always, and it's a bias that we all have, we ask ourselves, like, do I do community work but then lose money, or do I just keep on slugging along and doing profit in my clinic and optimizing that? And I think if you're smart enough, you can build a program where first it's going to be engaging for your employees to do it, right? You mentioned it at the start, where you remember those videos, or not the missions that you did internationally, the first time you put a pair of glasses on a kid and all of those. Your staff has not lived that. They didn't go to those mission. You can make them live that in town with your local community. Imagine the retention rate of those once you've lived that. Are you going to go work at another non-optical retail store? You'll want to be on your center there. The ikigai component, if you look into that X, that where you're helping others, making money and finding fulfillment, that's what you need to go through. And I think those questions, that's what you want to do. But it's also tied to your brand. Some people, they don't care about it. They're just in there and they want to do business. They want to be in their exam room. That's also okay. But leave space for other engaged optometrists to make a difference.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. I just wanted to ask you about prioritization and making high impact decisions. Optometrists can often get caught in the weeds trying to balance priorities, patient care, staffing, running multiple clinics. What's a simple framework you use, Simon, that helps you cut through the noise? How do you organize your schedule?
That's I'd love to say I have the perfect method out there. What I try to do is whatever I can make automatic and automatize the process around it. That's what I do. I have amazing colleagues throughout the organizations that are very good and they follow through. So that helps a lot. When you know that when you ask something and you secure a decision with a colleague that they'll pull through, that's a key aspect of it. And we're very lucky that way. We're not a big team in Canada, but I mean, people go over and above to deliver on it. But it's really those elements and then the timing of those decisions. Can I push that decision? And what I found is that whenever I push a decision, it means I'm lacking strategic content to make that decision. So I'm waiting on something. And one great book to help us speed up is The Obstacle is the Way. If anyone's looking, Ryan Holiday is this prolific Stoic philosopher / author that wrote a bunch of books. And that one was a key component is if you're stuck in a project and you want it to move ahead, ask yourself, why are you stuck? And then you can pursue those elements. What I also do from my role, which is quite vast, but I don't have any staff driving that for me. I work with colleagues. It's once in a while I need to take a step back and recalibrate. So I have this big slide that I don't present to anyone, which is a strategic map of everything that I have. All my projects are on there. All the whys behind it are on there. And it's in 4 perspectives. So the value creation perspective, the customer perspective or stakeholder perspective, internal processes, and then organizational development. And all of the pieces are cause and effect, have cause and effect relations. And that's how I build it. So when I'm overwhelmed with piles of paper on my desk, which you can't see, but are there, I go back to the why behind it and how we structured it. Sometimes I make a change because I'm like, yeah, I wrote it that way back then, but it needs to pivot a bit to truly drive the value. And it comes down to that value creation. How many people will I help down the road? Or is that just a piece on the chessboard I need to move? Because I know that in 6 months I'm going to need it, but it needs to move now to push ahead. So it is the analogy of the chess game and the prioritization that, if I don't have an event next week, for example, which I do, but let's say I don't, then can I do something strategic down the road that will help me streamline a project down the road? So it's not simple. Tim Ferriss has the deal model, which is a great one. But I don't have the key for that one.
Yeah, it's tricky. I read a book called Buy Back Your Time from Dan Martell, a Canadian from Moncton, New Brunswick. But very, very interesting as playbooks. What he says are playbooks for every certain scenarios to help train the team and, trying to utilize and empower others in his organization to help move up the food chain. So you're doing the higher order pieces. I started with one staffer. I was answering the phones and doing everything. And now I'm sort of evolving into the CEO of our organization. So it's quite a fascinating transition for me.
How do you take your hands off the steering wheel and let your team go? How do you manage not to get in the nitty gritty details?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge for me, for someone who thinks they has the answers and maybe has a good answer, to not give that answer, to hold back and empower your team leaders, your future leaders, to give the answer or come up with the solution themselves. And it may be suboptimal, maybe not your solution, but it's their ownership, and they can work through that. And you morph into an advisory role. You morph into what I call Yoda. You let them be the Jedis, and if they want to come back and have a little
Yeah.
tune up with Yoda, they can. A little Star Wars analogy there.
Yeah, what I had in the past, I had this. I used to have a bunch of people reporting to me, and I told them, if it's within your budget, it's accretive to the objective we have. If it's under this amount of dollars, make the decision. Inform me afterwards, right? But I would not say no if you have that solution and you can figure it out. Just tell me that something's changed, keep me informed, but you can make that decision.
Yeah, and micromanaging, I think, is a way out the door for a lot of people. It doesn't empower them, it doesn't make them feel good, and it stagnates their ability to do amazing things. So I think, again, back to, buy back your time book.
Yeah.
It was 80% of you is 100% of awesome. So if you can, have some of your team members perform at 80% of how you would do it, I mean, that's pretty amazing for the high performers in our industry. I know a lot of optometrists get stuck in the weeds from that because they don't think anybody can do it as good as them. And they're absolutely right. These are amazing people, but they can do it 80% as well. And that's 100% of awesome. So they should go with that and then mentor them over time. And of course, they'll exceed you over time. And that's what's happened, in our dry eye business. Our dry eye champion is just incredible with how much information she knows and how she's driving our dry eye business by really being empowered and in charge of that. And she really feels like it's her team in that dry eye space.
And what do you think? Why does she feel so empowered? What do you think was the critical factor there?
We kind of made it like carved out this division as her being the champion or the CEO of this business. She helps hire and train ocular hygienists and team members. She's involved in bringing in the equipment and managing the equipment, and she's involved in the budget, how much revenue we bring in. She tracks that every month. There's a bonus related to how we do profit-wise and revenue-wise in dry eye. And she just has a passion for that. So now we've tapped into that. She's unlikely to leave because she kind of has her own little business inside our business. And that's something that she really loves. And what I found amazing is even though she loves doing the treatments, the dry eye treatments, she's empowered a whole team of ocular hygienists that are doing the treatments. And she takes a lot of pride from that, from having her rest of her team grow into their roles in the same way I take pride in having her grow into her role. So it's kind of a whole hierarchy system that is just a beautiful ecosystem.
And do you feel she had the management skills in her, or did she need support for that?
I think she had it. I mean, that's a great question. Chicken and the egg kind of question, Simon. I think part of it's modeling, where she sees how we've managed other parts of the business. What I've found fascinating, we have a quarterly dry eye meeting, and she runs it. She sets the agenda, she distributes the agenda to add items, she does minutes and distributes the minutes afterwards. She gets an industry sponsor all on her own. I mean, it's incredible what she does there. And I'm quite frankly blown away every time. But she's run it by me over time. Okay, I've got the agenda. What do you think of this? Is this a good date? Right. So she's learned how we've managed our communications and interactions, modeled herself after that, and then just run with it in a most amazing way that I'm super proud of.
Yeah, and that trust that you two have built in that relationship of the early follow-ups. I mean, after a while, you're like, I don't need to know that much. You can just fly with it. But that space, sometimes we hire someone and we expect them to just fly with it, and then we're unhappy. But usually it's because you did not clarify your expectations and the way you want to work. So there's a lot of management to be done ahead. So kudos to you on that.
And it's quite interesting. She started as a chairside assistant for us, a dispenser and a chairside assistant, where she'd be in the exam room hearing me over and over. And now the way she speaks to the patient is the way I would speak to the patient. So I can just say, hey, Alicia's going to tell you everything that you need to know, and I'm out of there to the next patient. So it's quite amazing to empower your team. I think that's a massive opportunity across our industry to empower everyone to be better, do better, and to learn more and drive our individual businesses forward, to interact with your teams at EssilorLuxottica. Why not have some of our team members interact? It doesn't always have to be the doctor to be able to bring back ideas and solutions and be the captain of that solution and that project. Why not empower somebody to bring, nuance glasses, empower somebody to bring Meta Ray-Bans, make it more experiential and make it an amazing opportunity and partner them in, so to speak, in that equation.
We've seen that in successful practices with, you were saying dry eye, you did that, and myopia management. There was a champion inside the office that managed the process, and once they're empowered, they kind of put their eyes on every step and then they build it.
Yeah, and we found having accountability and responsibility are key pieces to success. For instance, we have a contact lens ordering desk now. All the contact lenses come through that one person, that one desk, if you will. She sometimes uses some of her teammates to help order so that we're consistent with our ordering processes. We use auto and other technology software solutions. But it's amazing, how we're better using our inventory banks and things like that in a more efficient way. So she's helping us run that contact lens portion of our business more efficiently, because instead of having, dozens of people, doing it maybe suboptimally, we're having one person with all the rules and the knowledge and the ability. And that, again, that speaks to, being able to do a call center or other areas of your business. And I know, yes, I have 5 practices, but I think you can do that in a micro way. In any size practice, because all of these practices are cold starts, Simon. I started small, and I'm empowering people within each office to do certain things. You got to pick the right person, and you have to train them. You can't just let it go without sort of guardrails and parameters and touchbacks to understand how are you doing, how do you want it to do, so that there's a learning curve. It's just like AI. AI learns how you want it. Your staff will learn how you want it, but you have to have a feedback mechanism.
That's it. And you wrote articles in the past about use your suppliers, use your companies. And I mean, a lot of us provide the training solutions and capabilities. I mean, we have Leonardo, that's an online learning platform as well that covers some of those topics as well. It doesn't solve everything, but it can be an asset to independence in providing those solutions and trainings without taking too much office time, because when someone comes in, it might be cumbersome. But I mean, if it's a bit slow that day, just, hey, I saw that training, just please do it. And we can talk about it afterwards. But you need the feedback loop you mentioned is a key component of continuous improvement.
Yeah. My EssilorLuxottica rep, Carell, is incredible.
Oh, she's amazing, but you're lucky.
Yeah, I'm super lucky. And if it shocks me why, all of my colleagues aren't taking advantage of these talents that can come into your office, train your staff, sit with your staff. I mean, that is a, complimentary service that our suppliers provide. So why not take advantage of that? So I think, if that's a take home from this podcast, please, utilize the resources of your supplier partners. So,
and they're there to serve, and the open communication is the key to success. Like if I mean, we process so many orders, one might be an issue. It might fall on the wrong customer. Talk to your rep. They'll talk to the customer service. They'll talk to the lab. They can figure out a solution. But if you don't talk to anyone and you just keep it to yourself and it builds inside of you, then it's just going to blow up at some point. And that's then a lost opportunity to fix something and to increase the business. I once heard our VP of Sales, Nicolas, say, having discussions with customers, I thought that was very smart, is, do you want to save a couple of bucks by changing suppliers, or do you want us to help you grow your business in a massive way, right? And that's the capabilities that we believe we have and that we can bring to independents across the country. And Bruce Miles, our general manager, and Nick are all aboard on this and trying to make that solution. and to make that a reality. And you've spoken to them; they're open and they want to find the right path to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Utilize the providers that are there that have the infrastructure, and all of a sudden you take your small little office and you make it have world-class capabilities. You could do AI, you could do all those things. So
Hey, and amidst your listener a lot worked with Kim Manius, and that's exactly what she was able to do with them. I hear that at every provincial conference I go to. I hear people talking about Kim and the way she helped them start their business and develop and make a difference. So she truly helped the eye care ecosystem as a whole.
no, Kim is an amazing person. If you haven't met Kim, please do. And I love it that she's doing great things as a female in a corporate world. I mean, Kim is just crushing it. So thanks for that, and thanks for Kim for helping us. I wanted to go to a new segment here, Simone. We have hot takes. We're going to shake things up a little bit, and I'll throw you some real world scenarios, and
Right.
you hit me with your unfiltered expert opinion. Okay, are you ready?
Go for it.
Scenario number 1. A practice owner is passionate about giving back to their community and wants to donate a portion of their sales to a charity. Their business partner argues that they should focus on growing profitability first before taking on social responsibility. How do you strike the right balance between making an impact and staying financially viable?
Use that philanthropic approach, to grow your business, right? I mean, some people will be offended by it, to say you're not doing it for the right reason. It's just combining objectives, right? It's not right or wrong. What you're doing is right. Engaging in the community and helping people. It's just that you have other benefits attached to it, and that might justify it to your other partners and make that difference, right? Whatever you do, if you're helping other people, you're not hurting anyone while doing it. Why is it wrong? Right? So we have those biases that it's either or, and we need to fix that.
Agreed. Scenario number 2. An optometrist wants to invest in myopia management solutions, but is hesitant because they feel patients are not asking for it and insurance coverage is still lagging behind. They're worried about spending money on something that patients don't yet prioritize. What's your advice to optometrists who want to offer myopia management but are hesitant due to patient adoption, cost, or uncertainty about the future?
There's so many ways to take this, but let me put it the other way. What if you don't do anything? Right? What if you don't do anything and your pediatric patient goes from -3 to -7, and then they meet an optometrist that does myopia management, and it shows that you haven't done anything? Right? Whereas in the US, you'd get sued, like, really badly. You're lucky we're in Canada, but if you're not doing anything, first, I mean, you should. It's a standard of care and it's the gold standard and all of that. But if you're still hesitant, think of the risk of not doing anything, and then think of there are easy solutions out there to manage myopia. You don't need to go deep inside the choroid's reaction to whatever stimulation it can get from a volume of non-focused light. You don't need to get into that. You don't even need the biometer to measure axial length. There are solutions that, by the way, if you're selling single vision myopic lenses, going to myopia management from a business perspective is worthwhile. So if you're doing it just for dollar reasons, then you should do it. If you're doing it to avoid that risk, you should do it as well. I don't understand why it's not. I understand where patients might feel like they can't purchase that. That's why the eyecare program is there. And then within your clinic, if you really think it makes a difference, you can build your own internal program to say, I'm going to make it affordable for them as well.
That's right. And I think, for us, we had a couple of patients ask us about getting referred to dry centers because they wanted more advanced care. And we have 2 world-class dry centers, but we just didn't communicate that appropriately or properly. So we're trying to catch those gaps. So that's another good thing, is make sure every myope has the education at the very least. That's your duty, I think, to make sure they're educated. So catch those. Scenario number 3, independent optometrists are facing a fork in the road. Stay independent or sell to private equity or partner with a larger organization. What's the smartest way for independent practices to think about these options in the long term? And what about competing online versus in-store, where does that fit in? How do you square all that?
It's interesting because there is a bias in the question, because why would partnering with a big organization like mine not make you independent? You still, like, I can't force Trevor Miranda to do anything, right? I don't think anyone can. But why wouldn't you try partnering with an organization like ours to do it? And then there's so many other issues. It is some sort of shield as well, because you can capitalize on us and all the solution we offer. In exchange, yes, purchase our products and use every asset. If you're just looking for a super low cost and no service, there are others out there. If you want to grow your business and leverage everything we have to offer, yeah, I mean, we're an amazing partner to do that part. But those solutions come at a certain cost. But if you're doing your business right, you're going to see your top line being way more. Because most people, they go for the cheaper, but they keep the same multiplying ratio in their business. I'm like, okay, but why do you want a rebate if that means you make less money? And honestly, I went face to face with some optometrists, and they're like, oh, you're right. So why have I been going for rebate and I'm not changing my ratio? Mostly because, I mean, you're an exception, Trevor, but we need more business courses in optometry. So I think for that perspective, and the online for me it's still going to happen, it's still there. Independence, I'm seeing some solutions come out there to deploy it. I think customization, a bespoke approach to optometry and opticianry and all of that, I think it's the main differentiator. And by the way, those products, your margins will be way higher and you'll make more money out of it. What's going online is usually like the cheap party glasses. So you don't make as much money on it. They're fun to sell. They're chippy, but managing that inventory and staying up to date is kind of a hassle. So that's the market that online is taking. People will get their main pair of glasses, and if you have a multi-pair program, they'll buy the second pair there. But maybe for whatever St. Patrick's, they'll want the green frames, and I mean, they don't want to invest a lot of money in there. Okay. Yes, it's a loss theoretically, but if you play your cards right and curate your market and your patients, you'll have the right business and you'll be making plenty of money now.
I think you don't, it doesn't have to be an either or. You can have a budget solution. We have a single vision frame and lenses, under $100, solution, and they're good. But we don't, they're not XR, or Stellest. We have a premium solution as well. So I think you can do both. You can do an online solution as well. I think you hit the nail right there on the head, Simone, talking about the next generation and make sure we're educating them on the business aspects to run not only a high impact, high patient care practice, but also one that's profitable. And you could do both as well in that area. So I think it's not either or, I would say.
Yeah.
Not a scenario, but I want to hear your take on this is what is an industry truth in quotes that you actually disagree with?
Well, I mentioned it, the whole notion of independence versus the others out there. Some of the colleagues you studied with, they work at Costco and they're happy because it fits their model, the conditions or what they were expecting, and they're okay. Are they evil because they work at a big box store and provide that? No. Customers it answers a need. Do they offer the same service as you and an independent brings? No, it doesn't. And they chose that for a reason. And other banners, I think everyone answers that specific need, and there's space for everyone. That's my take on it. So I think that turf war between the independent and the others is kind of what I think is slowing us down. If we all got together to work towards a common goal to reach as many people as possible, as I said, just a 2.7 year in Canada renewal rate to the 2 year, 35% growth potentially in the market. And that's not increasing the number of eye exams and reaching more people that are uncorrected right now. So there's nothing stopping us from growing except ourselves, right? And we're all looking at the neighbor's lawn and seeing it better and greener and all of that. But I think that's what's stopping us. Let's look further away.
I think that's great advice. There's an idea that success isn't just about reaching a peak, but sustaining it with discipline. What habits or principles are you using to keep you sharp? What do you really rely on to be disciplined and habit wise?
Never stop learning, right? When I talk about AI and I can geek out even more and deep dive into it. I need to keep that edge because I need to understand those elements. And in the form that you guys sent before the podcast, I said I'm currently reading on I have a blank right now, but it's this book on quantum mechanics, right? So I said I understand physics because I studied it, and then I wanted to understand because that's going to be a next phase in the development, and the basis I have in physics helped me in everything, right? But quantum physics is something different, so I can't stand not to understand something. I don't need to be the expert. I don't need to be able to do it. I want to understand the how, and I think that continuous improvement approach that I have keeps me on edge and keeps me valuable for my organization as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, Simon. You sound perfect, by the way. I just wanted to know what is.
Ask my wife. It's not. Yeah. It's not the case.
Yeah, we'll get her on the next podcast. If you could create a Simon Robert starter pack for business and leadership, what 3 books, 1 life philosophy, and 1 guilty pleasure snack would you include?
I mentioned The Obstacle is the Way from Ryan Holiday. That's a good holistic one based on Stoic philosophy, which I'm a big fan of. The other is Getting to Yes. If you want to improve your skills in negotiation, Never Split the Bill is another one in the same. But one of the classic is that I have plenty. Like I have a list of my my books I'd follow, like How to Make Friends and Influence People. Listen to the audiobook. That's a funny audiobook, old school element that will really help you, especially if you go into conferences, you want to network a bit more. That's a cool one. So yeah, plenty of references like that.
What's one little snack that you like?
I calculate my macros, right? So high protein diet, calculate the macros and everything. But then I work out in the evening, 8:30, 9 at night. So and then I take a spoonful or 2 of Nutella to scrap the whole macro and sugar intake of my whole day. But it feels like I deserve it.
You deserve it. You deserve that Nutella. That's good. You're human. Thank the Lord. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's only one.
So just your one guilty pleasure. Okay, before we wrap up, do you have any questions for me, Simon? Anything that you want to ask me before we wrap up the podcast?
Where do you see the future of optometry and independence? What's your take on that? I know it's a long answer, but I'd love to close on that.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the opportunities ahead of us. I think we're just scraping the surface for optometry and eye care and what we can do to customize eye care, how we can help through eye care be a holistic provider of your wellness. How can we provide better wellness and better health span to you through some of the levers we can deploy in our eye care offices? Independence, I always say you can't be truly alone. Independence comes from interdependence. And interdependence is utilizing the friends and resources in the industry. That could be colleagues that work across town from you. That could be colleagues that work across the world from you. That could be suppliers that compete with you. That could be suppliers that are partners with you. So make sure you're always not using ego to stand in your way of constant improvement and constant collaboration, because we're bigger and better when we're together than when we're in an individual. So, my concepts of independence are, yeah, I can do anything I want, but I can also do anything I want. And I think that is just truly crucial to being successful as we go forward. So I want to thank you, Simon, for joining us at Optometry Unleashed. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. I really look forward to the next time we get together in person and have another one of these chats over a nice glass of wine and a spoonful of Nutella. So thank you for that.
Thanks for having me, Trevor. Really appreciate it.